In some ways, is it a little bit of it's a blessing at the time, but a little bit of curse when you have a guy like Sterling Shepard that was such a big part of your offense? I think he accounted for 32% of your passing yards last year.
No, it's no curse. I describe him a lot of ways. Curse is not one of them. He was great to have in our first year. You know, he had a big season for us, obviously a really big second half of the season. Made a lot of key plays, and again, even though we only had him for 1 year, to see your older guys buy in like that group did was a great lesson for these guys coming up, and set a good benchmark for those guys in that regard.
But the guys that were, other receivers on your team that didn't have as much production, is that kind of what you preach to them? Like, okay, he's gone now. There's a lot more, yardage. There's a lot more passes in the air for you guys.
I think they sense that. I think they sense that there will be, there'll be more opportunities. That we want to be a more well-rounded group. In a perfect world, we don't have a guy maybe that we throw it to that high of a percentage of the time. But he won so much that it was hard not to. So I think through development in the offense, I think, as we go through these years in recruiting, I think we're going to be a more well-rounded group, and thus, hopefully the thought is much tougher to defend.
With all of the great running backs who've come here through the years, you amazed that Samaje is about ready to move to the top of the career rushing charts here? And what has he done to get to that point in just 3 years?
He's ran for a lot of yards. I mean, he's been, a little surprised. The history here is obviously as good as it is anywhere for running backs in the history of this game. But, this guy's been so consistent, and it's awesome to see a guy who's, having this happen that's so humble, that having the career that he's had up to this point, and the fact that he's still got a lot left is very special. And then to be able to share it back there with another guy, another great player like Joe, and see those two work together. It's just, it's good when he's got an opportunity to do that, and you see good things happen to good people, and he's a great example.
Going back to wide receivers, who's established themselves as the leader of that group, and are there anyone that's really outspoken, really vocal, kind of like Sterling was?
Jarvis is. Jarvis is definitely, become more vocal. Didi's a little more vocal, but that's not really his deal. He's a little bit more of, I'm going to lead by example. And I think Baker's taken up some of that. The fact that he's been settled in, that he's been through a year now. He's has much more kind of immediate presence on the team that he did at this time last year, during the summer, or during the spring last year when that battle was going on. And so I think he's been able to pick up a little bit of the slack as well.
What's been so impressive about Mikel Jones so far?
Well, he's explosive. I mean, he just has some kind of like, I'm not saying he's Sterling, but similar to Sterling in his explosiveness. And he's got some strength too. So, he's got a bright future ahead. If he can stay healthy and continue to progress, he's got a chance to be a good one.
It took you guys about half the season to kind of establish your identity last year. How much can you do that faster than that, or do you need those games?
We better. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of halfway agree with that. I mean, we played better as we went on, but it's, our part of that was, again, it was year one, and there was just a progression of it. I think we knew what our identity was the entire way. We just weren't great at it yet, and it was a progression. And then we, kind of around midseason, we started playing better. We got some confidence, and then we, were able to take off from there. So there's certainly an expectation that we've got to play better, and I think our guys have a strong understanding that if we don't, then we'll be in trouble, because we play obviously some really good teams here in the beginning, and we've got to be very good very early.
What were some of the obstacles putting in the offense and getting it to where you wanted to on the fly during the season?
Oh man, we don't have all day. I mean, a lot. Yeah, guys going through experiences for the first time. Guys. Getting out in competitive games, hostile environments where maybe something's not going well, and how much are you going to trust it? Or are you going to go back to doing your own thing? Guys trusting the man next to them and that they know what they're doing. Being able to make adjustments in games, being able to game plan, understanding, how some of these guys are going to react in game time, because, a lot of guys are different. Some are better, some are worse. When the lights come on and you put people in the stands, there was a ton, and there still is. Again, it's not. We haven't got this thing figured out. We've got to start all over here again in a lot of ways as far as building this group and seeing, what this group is going to become. But we feel like we maybe have a better idea, obviously, going into this year than we did last year.
You mentioned that Baker's leadership role was different this year versus a year ago. Is that more internal or external, the way he carries himself or the way that people look at him, his teammates?
That's a good question. How they look at him is probably different because he's played a year with these guys now. He's established himself as a leader and somebody that they're going to look to, especially when leadership is needed. And he's been able to fill that. Whereas before, we had other guys filling that role, and then he hadn't played here yet, and it's harder to do when you haven't played and made some plays and earned that respect. So. He definitely carries a bigger voice now, and something that he's done a good job of being aggressive with.
Can you talk about Joe Mixon? Joe's talk is often not about the football, and then because of Samaje's success, we don't really hear as much about him because, and he's a guy that has fascinating ability. I saw him the other day, 235. What are you looking for out of him this year?
Yeah, people better appreciate him because he's fantastic. He's a fantastic player. He's a great young man. He's one of our most valuable, just flat-out players on the team because of the energy that he brings. He is, with our young players, like with Abdul Adams, he's got his arm around Abdul all the time, helping him out, teaching him, whether it's something about offense or something about just college in general or helping him grow up. He is, I think Joe will be a team captain here one day. He acts like one right now. And he's obviously a really, really good football player, and we think his best ball is definitely ahead of him.
Bob spoke highly of Geno Lewis. What have you liked out of what he's done so far, and did he pick up on the offense pretty quickly?
He has. He's really mature. You can tell this is a guy that traveled halfway across the country to come here to have a great senior season, and he's really approached everything with a very professional mindset, which it's been good for our guys to see. Having a little bit of a younger receiving core in some areas, some new guys that we need to contribute, and he's been a great example. He's got really, really good ball skills. He's shown the ability to be able to move around to different positions, while being here just a short time, which has been impressive. And again, his attitude has been fantastic.
Year two, is it any easier for you in that maybe aspect of building trust and respect is kind of out of the way, and are you able to delve more into scheme now than you were at this time last year?
No, that's never out of the way because it's again a new group. It's not like we end at one point last year and then we keep building. There's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of different guys, different leadership. This group will come together in a different way. We can already see a lot of subtle differences, in the way we play, but also just kind of in the way we carry ourselves right now as opposed to the group did last year. It's a new team, so we've got to establish the trust between, coaches and players all over again, and and then we'll get to that part later.
Change or progress, or can you describe what you've seen out of Austin Kendall?
Yeah, definite progress, definite. I can tell that he's much more settled in, much more comfortable with what he's doing. He's communicating really, really well. So really, really pleased with the progress he made in the summer. He continues to exceed expectations.
Blake, you have wide receivers. You have had wide receivers that haven't made the big plays. How much are you looking for Miller, Green, Smallwood, Mead, guys like that to make that next step in producing this offense?
It'll be huge. It'll be one of the deciding factors for us. In that, people know that we do have the ability to run the football. We've got some guys that can dish it out, and we're going to get some opportunities, one-on-one with guys like that. And if we can win those battles, then we feel like we'll be tough to defend.